In February 2020, the UK was hit by Storm Dennis, and this resulted in a considerable quantity of rain. And within the Forest of Dean, we weren't let off. So we took the opportunity of going round and visiting as many of the cave sites that we could and shooting some video, which is what you're going to see. We start off in the Slaughter Resurgence catchment area. As you can see from the picture that's on the screen, we've highlighted the three main caves: Wet Sink, Slaughter Stream Cave, Red House Lane Swallow Cave, and Big Sink. We're starting our journey at the Slaughter Resurgence. So we start off at the Slaughter Resurgence. For anybody that doesn't know where this is located, it's about 300 metres upstream on the east bank of the River Wye. And in front of the camera, between us and the river, is the old railway line, and there's a forestry track behind the camera. We can see a good flow of water coming out of the pool on the right hand side and then going down and into the culvert that takes it out to the river. Under higher conditions, where I'm stood at my feet level, water comes out of a hole there, and even higher conditions, it would come out of a hole where the camera is actually positioned. So you get a really good flow of water here at times. Back in the middle of March, I received an email from Andy Clark. He'd been out on a bike ride and cycled past the Slaughter Resurgence and told me that it was bone dry. To be honest, I couldn't really believe that, because in all my lifetime I've never seen it dry, so I thought I ought to go and have a look. So here you can see in this short video the Slaughter Resurgence, similar shot to what we saw in the previous video, and it is, as Andy said, completely and totally dry. I've never seen this in my lifetime. I've made inquiries with people, and even in 1976 water was still flowing out of here. I have no idea as to what's caused this. Something may have happened underground that we're not aware of to change the course of the water, and it's something that we want to investigate. We'll certainly be going to have a look at Cabsav and see whether the water is still running through the bottom of Cabsav at the well. I'll show you some video of that later. The next site on our tour is Wet Sink at Joyfud, and this is how we normally see it. The cascade is dry, nothing coming down it. The cave entrance is over to our right. Back in February 2020, however, the scene looked very different, with a large quantity of water coming down the stream and down the cascade and going into the cave. Underground conditions would have been pretty extreme, particularly the low crawl going out to Cross Stream Junction. This is the aftermath of all that water, a massive pile of debris up against the grill. But at least it's up against the grill and not at the bottom of those entrance series ladders pitches, which would have been grim to have got it out from there. Just over a week ago, a group of us got together and went to Wet Sink, and we cleared about 3/4 of a ton of debris from off the grill, and Mark was able to get down with his brush and give it all a good clean off. Lubricated the gate mechanism and everything, and it's all ready for when we go back to caving again. 50 metres away from Wet Sink is Dry Sink. This normally takes a stream. That's the water you can see coming down from the right and disappearing into the whole middle of the stream. Unfortunately, as we know, when we get a lot of wet conditions, Joyfud Mill pumping station, for a variety of reasons, can't cope with the flow, and we get what they call a combined sewer overflow discharge, and that's the water that you can see coming in on the left-hand side of the picture. We always knew it came from the Joyfud Mill pumping station, but I was down there with Craig and we thought we'd have a bit of fun, as you can see. Without a doubt, that water comes from the Joyfud Mill pumping station. So for anybody that's never seen fluorescein dye being used, that's what the effect looks like. And that's one of the sort of dye that we would have used or have been using for the dye tracing project. Fortunately, there's a lot of work being done of recent times with Welsh water, and we've certainly improved conditions. It isn't going to go away. They've got to have them, but at least we're making progress in reducing the frequency that the CSO is used. This is the entrance to Simon's Yacht Swallet. Not that you know it, it's well buried underneath the silt and debris. This is the most northerly of Swallet that feeds the Slaughter resurgence. Water also sinks here in this small hole on the right hand side. This again was a day when we were putting fluorescein dye in as part of the dye tracing project. This is the effects of Storm Dennis in February 2020. As you can see, it's completely filled up the whole of the area of the Swallet. Nothing could take the volume that was coming down, and in fact it was overflowing out of the end of the Swallet and down the hillside, which I have to say was most impressive. Big Sink lies approximately 500 metres south of Simon's Yacht Swallet, and again is linked to the Slaughter resurgence. The name, very apt, as you can see. It's quite a significant depression and was dug out many years ago, and there is a kilometre of cave. Here we see it in the aftermath of Storm Dennis in February of 20. The whole of the bottom of the depression is full of water, and there was a lot going down and into the shaft.
No. Rubbish.
Jo just got her torch out there, I think, to have a look down and see what she could see. We did some digging out around the side of the shaft lining, and that allowed a lot more water to go in. To show the effect of the water and so that we could see it better, we again added some fluorescein dye. It would have been very, very, very wet going down and into the chamber down below. As yet, we've not been able to get back, of course, to see what effect all this water has had on some of these sites. Continuing south from Big Sink along the forestry track, the next significant site that we see is Utrecht or JDJ Swallet, dug originally by John Court, Di Court and John Elliott, hence the name. Takes a small stream in normal conditions, but again with Storm Dennis's assistance, there's quite a lot of water here, and it runs down and sinks at the end of the depression, as we can see. It's linked by dye tracing to the wet rift in Big Sink, so one can imagine that that was pretty wet. It would provide an alternative entrance if it was dug out, and it may be something we have to consider. A further 500 metres south of Big Sink and we come to Fence Swallet, given that name for fairly obvious reasons, opened up a few years ago. It's located just off the forestry track on the western side. Here in February 20, again high evidence of water going in as a result of Storm Dennis. There's no obvious bedrock exposed in the hole. A lot of sort of debris, bits of branches, trees, you know, etc., leafy stuff. This video was shot fairly recently and shows the effects of the water, and I have informed the Deputy Gaveler that they need to think about some new fencing, and also, you know, the idea of having a dig. The next site we're going to visit is the Dropper. This is located approximately 100 metres east and 30 metres higher than the forestry track we've been walking along. It takes a stream throughout the year, although like all the sites, Storm Dennis has certainly increased the flow rate. When the Forest Club were digging here, they used to collect the water and then send it down a pipe to the bottom of the dig to use it like a big hose pipe to flush the mud away and expose the rocks. How successful it was, I don't know. We can see quite a cascade here coming in. The water sinks away underneath the left-hand wall and has been dye traced to Cabsav. This is the entrance to their dig. They got down about 30 or 40 metres. Lots of scaffolding was put in. They didn't get any significant open passage or any chambers to talk about, and it was abandoned some years ago. Cabsav Cave is located approximately 200 metres west of the Dropper. A series of 4 pitches and then a crawl bring you to this location, which is called the Well, where the water comes up from about 9 metres down. It is very impressive, and I'll leave the film to show you what happens next. Let's go. All right, Nicky?
Wow, that's awesome.
Right, shall I, as you stay there, John? Unless the battery's gone on this one, if there's no... Yeah, battery's gone.
That's right. It did switch it off.
Yeah.
I turned the camera off. It switched itself off just as you said it will.
Do you want to pop this one in and see? Let's go. Looks amazing, doesn't it, the green water?
Yeah, we got a bit. We got a bit with that one.
Okay.
It might just stay like that for a while, mate.
This is a bit more impressive than last time.
Yeah. That light's just starting to flicker a little bit. Although this isn't a caving site, I'm sure there are many of you that will have visited the Biblins Wire Bridge. So I thought you might like to see what the effect of Storm Dennis was. Water levels were pretty high even when I was there. And you can see indicated on the far side in the support, that's a tree that came down and got stuck in the timber work. As the camera pans to the right, you can see the debris line in the trees, and I'll come back to that in a second. That's the log cabin that Sally Harvey used to live in, and that got pretty wet. Here we can see the level that the water came up to on the indicated on the support structure, and it was very, very close to the underside of the bridge. I would have loved to have been down there when it was at that level. But you couldn't get anywhere near the bridge. It was all completely flooded. For our next area, we've moved across the forest to near to St Breville's and the Slade Wood area. This is the forestry track that leads up to Slade Brook Cave, and although there's no water coming down the track, it's pretty obvious that a lot of water has come down the track. As you can see, there's quite a rut and disturbance of all the track material. This is the entrance to Slade Brook Cave. I have seen water coming out of here in the past.
Just when it's becoming nice.
Not the place to be when it's in wet conditions. This is the resurgence for the cave. It's down below the forestry track. There's usually a good flow of water, but obviously increased flows due to Storm Dennis. The water then continues on down the valley, and this is where the Tufa dams are. This is just down the valley bottom where there's a junction of the tracks, and this is a culvert. There's quite a bit of water coming out though still, as you can see. The Environment Agency or somebody similar have been doing some monitoring here because of the proposed expansion of the local quarry. You can see the Tufa dams where they lie, but obviously with this quantity of water it's difficult to actually see them in detail. This time of year now, where we are now in April, it's a good time to go down the valley and look at the dams because the water flow will be a lot less. It's a very, very nice area. Lots and lots of dams. It's very significant. One of the most significant Tufa dam sites in the UK. This is Slade Wood Cave, or this is the water coming out of Slade Wood Cave, I should say. And the cave entrance is up there just in the top of the picture. And here's a view inside. I did dig here many years ago with Steve Crommelin. We made some progress, but it is quite small and awkward, and it was only Dr. Nobel that was actually making us any progress. The final area that we're going to look at is at Banygor. This is down at the southern end of the Forest of Dean. We went there a few days after Storm Dennis had gone through. Still plenty of water in the river, and as you can see in the distance, plenty of water coming down the riverbank. That's actually the water coming out of Banygor Cave. Banygor Resurgence is just round to the right there and highlighted by the green arrow. We'll be getting up to there shortly. Just prior to arriving at the Resurgence, there was a fairly large stream of water coming out of another site. I believe Jan Karvik dug this trench many years ago. You can see there's a fair volume of water coming out. That's it. Looking back along the riverbank, you can see it. And I'm actually now at the Resurgence itself. And as the camera pans round, you can see the volume of water that was coming out of the Resurgence. Certainly quite a significant flow. We've moved on again now, and this that you can see is the actual water that was coming out of the cave entrance itself. Under normal conditions, no water comes out at this point, only at the Resurgence. So obviously the volume of water going through the cave system was such that it was forcing its way out of the cave entrance. It couldn't all get out of the resurgent. It was coming out in a number of locations, as you can see. The cave entrance is above the top of the picture by about 3-5 meters up. This is looking down inside the shaft, and as you can see, the water is quite high. We are not going into Banygor when the water's like that.